Let's start with computer.
Disable.
But let's change out the microphone array. Come on. Oh, that's why I automatically adjusted.
Test, test.
Sound good?
Check, check. 1, 2, 3. Check, check.
All right. Testing. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Beth,
Perfect.
is mine on? Yeah. Oh, that's too bad.
So turn it off until you. There you go. All right. It's my pleasure to open the Garden City Community College September Board of Trustees meeting. Can we get the echo out of there? Testing 1, 2, 3, 4. Nope, they can't hear. All right, testing 1, 2, 3, 4. No. Testing 1, 2, 3, 4. Testing 1, 2, 3, 4. Testing 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry. I know we tested it before. All right, testing 1, 2, 3, 4. Can people hear me? It's an echo.
Marilyn, just to let you know, I can hear you fine on Zoom and I'm not hearing the echo on Zoom.
Shanda, was that you?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Okay. All right. So first of all, I appreciate your patience with our audio system. We'll get it worked out. And secondly, thank you guys for your perseverance. If at any time you cannot hear us, I'm going to take my mask down. If at any time you cannot hear us, please raise your hand, okay? All right. So it's my pleasure to welcome you to the Garden City Community College Board of Trustees September meeting. I have just a few comments and then we'll get on with our agenda. So first of all, I'd like to take a moment in silence as Garden City lost one of their students this past month. Our thoughts and prayers are with the family of John Deere student William Grunwald. Thank you. Garden City Community College Board of Trustees met yesterday and we approved to exceed the revenue neutral rate as mandated by the Kansas law, Senate Bill 13, that was passed in the 2021 legislation. The Board of Trustees also approved the 2021-22 Garden City Community College budget with a mill levy of 24.529 mills, which was a minor increase of 0.14 from the year previous. We have some exciting news. The Fort Hays State University Transfer Center has been relocated onto the campus, and they will be hosting an open house on September 28th at 1:30 in the library. Another memorable event, yesterday we celebrated or remembered the 9/11 tribute. Members of the Garden City Police Department and other local first responders were in attendance. Thank you to Brandy Unruh, who organized the event, and she did a great job, as well as her students, the Garden City Community College Criminal Justice Program, and SGA. It is very poignant and our responsibility to remember that the day's events. May we never forget. Okay. We have two board members who are, one is ill and one is on by Zoom, but we still have an established quorum here today. I will go ahead and ask SGA for their report.
Okay, so I am Elizabeth Merle. Most people call me Ellie. I'm the president of SGA this year. And just so you all know, we are going to be rotating throughout the year for these Board of Trustee meetings, just so that you guys can get to know the executive team a little bit. So first off, SGA had our first kind of event. We had the welcome back picnic, and it went really well. We had 272 attendants from the QR code. And basically the only thing that everyone said we needed to change was that it needed more shade because it was very hot that day. And then we also had the 9/11 service, which I think went really well. And that was at 9 a.m. on this Monday. And that was with criminal justice and SGA. We felt that criminal justice really needed to be included just to help us a little bit. We've kind of tried to incorporate more of the clubs to help us with things because, I don't know, it just turns out a lot better when we have more help. We had coffee and donuts at 8:30 a.m. And then next up, we have homecoming week, which is going to be from September 27th to October 2nd. And we had the first round of elections that ran from September 6th to today. And then we also have the college fair on Wednesday, September 22nd from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. in the library lobby. And then we have Constitution Day this Friday. We are planning to have, we were going to plan on having a few speakers, but they got ill. So we won't be having any speakers, but there's going to be a lot of interactive activities going on. And then Halo is going to be hosting a Hispanic Student Day on October 1st, not August 3rd. That's already passed. It's going to be from 8 to 3. That's where they got those numbers from. And then they also participated in the Fiesta Parade. And PTK is doing the annual Park Your Car fundraiser. GC3 Media has been working very closely with SGA for marketing. Bookbusters and Debate and Forensics has been planning some events as well. And then Bow Arts is doing a showcase art October 20th, and that includes poetry, raps, 2D art, and 3D art. And then Art Club is going to be doing a t-shirt making event. They're very excited about that. And then lastly, Prism is going to be looking at bringing more speakers to campus this year. So do you guys have any questions for me?
I like your idea of involving more of the clubs on campus.
Mhm.
I think that's great. So,
Yeah.
good job.
Thank
Good
you.
leadership.
Mhm. Thank you. Well,
Questions? Thank you. All right, introduction of new employees.
Hi. Hi. Um, I have the pleasure tonight of introducing Dawn Fuchs, who is the new Garden City Career Connection Academy Administrative Assistant. Since 2014, Dawn has served as a long-term substitute teacher for the Deerfield and Garden City school districts. She began her post-secondary education at Pikes Peak Community College, where she obtained an associate's degree in paralegal studies. We're very, very lucky to have her and happy to join this evening.
All right, we're on agenda item 2, the consent agenda. So the first thing that I want to point out is that we do have a substitute page for item D, and it's been provided to us. Okay. I would request that we pull item F from the consent agenda for discussion. Okay. Leonard, can I have you modify that and So first I need a motion to approve the consent agenda. But if you want any other items pulled, I need to know that first.
I'll second that.
So I have a motion and a second to approve consent agenda items A, B, C, D, E. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Shanda?
Yes, I'm sorry. Couldn't find the button fast enough.
Okay. So the motion is approved 5-0. Item F, I'm going to recuse myself and allow Beth to run the meeting for this item.
We will now have discussion on item F, Grow Well Access to Clinical Services Group Agreement.
Yeah, just providing a bit of background on this. This is a membership that's being brought forward between Blue Cross Blue Shield and Grow Well Services. Membership between those two entities. But with our healthcare provider being Blue Cross and Blue Shield, this is a add-on benefit that we have for our Garden City Community College employees to utilize our health insurance program. The partnership between Blue Cross and Blue Shield and Grow Well really is an additional healthcare program that provides preventative care as well as some urgent care services, as well as providing healthcare risks, work comp, and employment and pre-employment screening services. So there is no additional charge to Garden City Community College employees. For this added on benefit, we are going to be utilizing reserves that we have through Blue Cross and Blue Shield to fund this added on benefit. So we are bringing this recommendation forward to the board to approve using fund reserves through Blue Cross and Blue Shield for this added on benefit employees and members that are utilizing the healthcare program through Garden City Community College.
Any discussion? Questions?
Madam Chair, I can say from using this through the city also has a contract with them. It's a great benefit to the employees. You can get your labs done free, shots, anything, and go for anything you have.
Thank you.
Is a benefit for our employees.
Sorry,
Any other-
voice from the sky here. This is Shanda. Sorry.
Garden City Community College employees enrolled in the healthcare program through Garden City Community College. So I'm understanding this right. Employees from the college can go over and get the benefits from Grow Well Services. Is that correct?
Correct.
And Grow Well Services is headed up by a trustee. I can't help but think there's a little conflict of interest in this. Explain it to me so I can understand that it's not.
Well, it's there is a trustee that is an employee of Grow Well. Yes, it's not. It is headed up by the trustee, but she is an employee. But we have, this is services there to where employees have the option of utilizing this. This isn't the only option that they have for healthcare services. But the conflict, we've gone through legal and verified that there are allowances for this, and because individuals have options for other health care, and this is not the exclusive health care option, then there really is not a conflict of interest as far as exclusivity being figured into this.
Oh,
Hello,
are there
can you
other
hear me?
questions? Excuse me.
Can you hear me? This is Shanda. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Are there other comments from the public?
This is Shanda. Can you hear me?
Blue Cross and Blue Shield. So Blue
Hello?
Cross and Blue Shield was the agents that brought forward this proposal.
Hello?
That our contract with Blue Cross and Blue Shield, the contract to utilize Grow Well is with Blue Cross and Blue Shield. So we are not contracting with Grow Well. We are able to utilize the service because of our health insurance being through Blue Cross and Blue Shield.
Sorry, Jody, if
So
you
this
can
is your
relate.
situation.
Hold on.
If this is initiated an agreement with Blue Cross Blue Shield, not necessarily something the college put out for bids with locals. So this is more of an agreement between our insurance and who they work with, not necessarily who the college is choosing. to
Y'all,
work
Shanda.
with. Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Not quite, no.
Okay, I know Jody said she
We're
could
working
hear
on
me.
sound here on this end.
Can you hear me? I'm going to be the cell phone commercial until you hear me, I guess. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello?
There we heard her.
Better.
You got me?
Better.
Okay, I guess my question is, if this is an agreement between our insurance and Grow Well, this isn't necessarily Garden City Community College seeking out a local provider. So I guess for me, that kind of clarifies some of the conflict of interest. It wasn't that we went out shopping for this. This is who our insurance partnered with. So I just didn't know if that was a fair point on any conflict of interest, that Grow Well wasn't necessarily who Garden City Community College chose. We chose the insurance and the insurance chose to partner with them.
That's correct.
Any other question? Any other comments or questions, either from the public or the surrounding tables?
I think the only other piece that I would say is just clarify the fact that this is being brought forward to the board as a transparency measure, just so that as we're utilizing the reserve funds that we have through Blue Cross and Blue Shield, this is not an additional expense through our general fund. This is not an additional expense that's being incurred by employees. These are services that we're being able to provide utilizing the reserve funds through Blue Cross and Blue Shield. Just to clarify that point.
Any other questions or comments?
Now, my understanding is correct. that Grow Well is contracting with Blue Cross Blue Shield. Garden City Community College is not contracting with Grow Well.
Correct.
But in that, Grow Well will service students, or the students or faculty or whoever have the option of going over and get the services Grow Well. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Students
To me,
as
it's
well.
Still fuzzy.
Oh, Carla's shaking her head no on students.
The only members, it's just for employees, other than some preventative things that they are going to do, like the flu vaccinations and the biometric screening. They are going to open that up to family members, but the services are utilized or can be utilized by employees that are enrolled in our insurance plan at no cost to the employee.
Is that clear, Leonard?
I understand.
Yeah.
So, to me, it's still crazy.
I think the added benefits that we see from this, just from my perspective, I think the added benefits we see are ways to be able to help address premium increases down the road, being able to have some preventative care options, and where it's no additional cost to employees or the institution. Those are the underlying reasons where we feel like this is a benefit.
Does this in
And
any way?
I might mention in one of the things that I did here, the trustee is not owner. She is an employee of Growwell.
Does this in any way prohibit the employees and members of this plan from still working with their normal physician? This is optional. They can still see their normal physician as they want.
And we could not hear you.
She's muted. There you go.
Okay, so this is an optional program for those that are on our insurance. And if they choose to still see their normal GP, they can still do that. This is just an added but not required part of their plan. True?
That is accurate.
Who owns Growwell?
Repco.
I'm sorry?
Repco. REVCO.
Revco. It's owned by Revco.
I believe.
Okay. Now, trustee's position with Growwell, is that management or is that just an employee?
My understanding is it's employee.
Are there any other questions, comments? Are we ready for a motion of approval or disapproval? I need a motion.
I move that we approve the membership in Blue Cross and Growwell.
Approve the use of the GCC fund reserves through Blue Cross Blue Shield for the healthcare agreement with Growwell. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion. Could you hear me? I seconded the motion. Hello?
All right. Thank you. It has been moved and seconded that we approve the use of the GCCC fund reserves through Blue Cross Blue Shield for the healthcare managed agreement with Growwell. Is there further discussion? All right, I will call for the question. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries with a count of 4-1. What? Oh, I'm sorry. 3-1. I'm sorry, I counted Shanda's echo. To approve the use of the GCC fund reserves through Blue Cross Blue Shield for the healthcare agreement with Growwell. Thank you. Can you all hear me? Okay. All right. So, yeah. Do I go get her?
Well, you're in charge.
Whoever thought I'd get her. Come back. Okay, thank you. I'm in charge of all right. Madam Chair, the motion passed with 3-1, and it has been approved. I gladly turn the meeting back to you.
Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, I just want to clarify something. Who is the owner of Grow? I said
The owner of Growell is Revere Healthcare Solutions.
Revere.
All right. We are on agenda item number 3, confirmation of monitoring reports, starting on page 54 in our booklet. All right, the first report that we are reviewing is the workforce development. Workforce development will be responsive to community economic development and employer needs. In front of you, you have the interpretation and how the community college is meeting that ends. There's a lot of information here about how we connect with the advisory committees to provide workforce development based on their needs, how we connect with Finney County Economic Development in anticipating and helping with the community's needs, that we have new programs going on because of those 2 connections, that we have collaboration with the local school districts for dual credit opportunities for high school. I'm proud to report, or I shouldn't say I'm reporting, I should say Dr. Ruda is reporting that there's been some work for funding external financial resources that are outlined in our report. Any comments? I feel like our president is meeting this ends exceptionally well.
I agree.
Okay. All right, the second report is for the board job description, which is in page 19 on our policy governance. But what I'm going to do is have Dave report for BAA. And I believe Shanda is deferring her report till next month. Dave.
Yes, please. Zoom is not the best place for me to try to do this.
Had a few meetings this spring due to weather and schedules. Also unable to attend a couple of meetings due to my surgery. As you know, the audit once again pointed out they did not have enough board members according to bylaws. They've continually been looking for additional members for the board. We've gotten the membership up to 8. We need 4 more to meet the bylaws requirements. We're looking forward to the fall season of sports and getting back to some normalcy. Due to the pandemic, the supporters purchased tickets last year will be either free, so that also hinders fundraising. At least have the concession stands open for fall sports. They're also planning another golf tournament to raise funds. Currently tentatively scheduled for October 16th, but may have to be postponed until spring due to lack of sponsors and teams. What I was told was that COVID is hurting sponsorship. That's it. I did not bring that list with me. I had it. But you got the Rocky, Bob Larson, Manny Ortiz, Maxine Atkinson, Jim Howard, come back on. He was, but then he quit. And insurance, credential insurance, Vaughn. think that was.
So our charge on this monitor was that we are just monitoring the outcomes and the professional conduct of the organizations. So it's, even though it sounds like they're struggling a little bit, there isn't anything worrisome.
No, it's very professional, and if there's something that they think is conflict of interest, they'll meet with Dr. Ruda and figure out where he stands and go from there. So.
Okay. All right. And Shanda, was I correct? You're going to report next month for endowment?
Yes, I will. Next month, I'll give a full report on endowment. But just on a short side note, nothing of concern at this time, and things appear to be going well.
Great. If it's the consensus of the members here, we'll accept the monitoring reports as presented. You can Leonard? Okay, thank you. All right. We doing okay? Okay, moving on. Item number 4, public comments. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4 speakers. So just a reminder, public comment is 5 minutes per individual. Comments should be relevant to matters over which the board has authority. Speakers should respect the rights of all persons, and they should not engage in any personal attacks or disruptive behavior. This time is not intended to be a question and answer period. The board cannot take any binding action on matters that are not on the agenda. The board has the right to conduct an orderly and efficient public meeting. Comments are directed to the board should pertain to our ends, and the ends are mission, essential skills, work preparedness, academic advancement, personal enrichment, and workforce development. With that, I will allow or have Jill Stevens approach. You can, yeah, you can.
My name is Jill Stevens, and I attended Garden City last year. I was a member of the women's basketball team and feel that I represented Garden City well. But in the best interest of my physical and mental well-being, I decided to leave and transfer. I informed Garden City of my decision. I was told I was free to go without limitation. This is all in writing on text messages. Only recently has Garden City changed their mind. Garden City waited until I transferred to a new college, began a new school year, and began practicing with a new team before deciding to deny my waiver to play this season. Ultimately, I am now being punished by my decision to leave this college and go play for another school. I'm being forced by Garden City to put my life on hold and sit out for an entire year. Why? The mission and vision statement of this college reads as follows. Garden City Community College exists to produce positive contributors to the economic and social well-being of society. From here, you can go anywhere. Can I go anywhere, or will I be vindictively punished for choosing to leave? This is what Garden City is currently enforcing, that it be punished and made to sit out. Many athletes in the Jayhawk Conference, both in basketball and football, along with many other sports, have transferred both in and out of Garden City without being denied a waiver to play immediately. Why am I being singled out for a whole year when so many other athletes have been granted waivers immediately? More than one of my teammates on last year's team at Garden City transferred in and were granted waivers to play immediately. You may ask, why did I want to leave and transfer out of Garden City in the first place? While a member of Garden City's women's basketball team, I was told multiple times to lie about having COVID symptoms because it would jeopardize our practice time and games. Being told to lie about COVID was in direct opposition of the college's policy and being a responsible member of the community. It was outright dangerous and blatantly irresponsible. On another occasion, we were told the only reason we had a female coach on our staff was to talk about your periods and because of Title IX. As a female athlete, I found this extremely unprofessional, disrespectful, and offensive. Once, as a punishment, we were forced to run indoors fully clothed in heavy winter clothing for 2 full hours. During this time, one of our players collapsed. When we started to help her, we were yelled at to stop, and when we were told she was weak. We had no trainer present during this punishment and many other so-called punishments as our health and safety was being put at risk. I, along with others, were constantly berated on a daily basis. I was told on a regular basis if I would make an effing shot, we wouldn't be losing. I was told that I sucked and I couldn't play defense. This is just the tip of the iceberg of verbal abuse suffered by myself and others. I don't mind being coached hard, but after constant personal attacks, day after day, along with countless number of safety concerns, I was severely beaten down at the end of the season. There are many more incidents, both verbal and physical, that I experienced being on the team that I don't have enough time to talk about today. That being said, I weighed the pros and cons, and I knew that I clearly needed to leave. You may ask, why am I speaking out now? Why didn't I speak out before? The reason is because I didn't want attention. I just wanted to move on with my life and focus on my own goals. Only now that I'm being targeted and punished, I felt the need to speak out about this injustice and the many severe problems with the women's basketball program here. Even though I don't go to school here anymore, the community supports me and thinks that I should have the right to play at another school. Thousands have signed my petition. I'm generally concerned with the safety of the women's basketball team. Women's basketball players here are being put in peril, both mentally and physically. This reflects very poorly on the college and community and could lead to another unfixable tragedy. I hope you understand that I was led to believe that I could go anywhere and play next year. I hope you understand that I was falsely led to believe that I could leave without any repercussions. This is documented and made clear in writing. I would like to leave you with one final thought. What is the mission of Garden City Community College athletics? Is it to support the success of student athletes, including ones like me who transfer for legitimate reasons regarding mental health and safety? Or is it to vindictively punish a student athlete who simply wanted to leave quietly and continue pursuing her academic and athletic career? Please allow me to exercise responsible leadership and grant me academic freedom by reconsidering signing the waiver that I need to play this year. Thank you. Yeah, you can leave them right there. Yeah, thank you. Ms. Stevens, I really appreciate your courage and your passion to come forward. Thank you for your speech. Okay. Katerina Zagorak per Zoom.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Katerina, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Okay. All right. Speak up a little bit.
I'm sorry, can you hear me now?
Even a little bit louder.
Is it better now?
Yes.
Okay. So hello, my name is Katerina Zagorac, and I was on the Garden City women's basketball team last school year. I would like to begin with saying that one of the biggest problems last year with the team was head coach's attitude towards the players wasn't the same. Players were held to a different standard throughout the whole year on and off the court. Head coach was inconsistent with enforcing the rules at times, depending specifically on who was breaking them. I have many examples of that if you need any. Most of the time, the whole team would be punished because of the few individuals that kept breaking the rules throughout the year. Those individuals also had bigger and better opportunities on the court, which resulted in many players doubting themselves and losing confidence. Head coach let players behave badly, make fun of each other, and a lot of times he would join in on that. He would also encourage players to insult each other in practice, and he would call it holding each other accountable, which was creating a toxic culture and toxic environment to be at. One of the things that me and a couple of other players felt on our own skin and that has left a big impression on me was when we would get made fun of in front of the whole team by the head coach using information from our private meetings where we confided in him. Many of his jokes were inappropriate, and I can also give you a couple of examples of that. And there were many times he didn't act accordingly to his position and title. One other thing is that we were never informed about our basketball schedule. Everything was kept a secret, and we weren't told anything except the one day ahead. It was very hard to manage school and private responsibilities with basketball ones because we could get called any time of the day and any day of the week, and we would be expected to show up. He would send us messages early on Sunday morning and expect us to show up even though the previous day he said we have a day off. In the end, I would like to say that Jill is probably one of the hardest working teammates I ever had. She was the first one to enter the gym and last one to exit every day. She never complained about anything, even though she had many things to complain about. She followed the rules and on and off the court and set a good example to follow. I believe that she shouldn't be held up from playing basketball this year, and it's not what she deserved, especially because she didn't get what she was promised coming to this program. She has a right to change the environment that wasn't suitable for her for many reasons, as I stated.
All right. Thank you, Katerina.
Thank you.
All right, next we have Mr. Brent Sinclair.
I don't think I need that. My name is Brent Sinclair, and what I want to talk about is the beautification and safety of this campus. I walk the campus every day and talk with students all the time. This is a list that I've given out to Dr. Rudin, also Derek Ramos, and of stuff that I see. I'm a lawn care guy. I have all the credentials you could possibly imagine, and we've got problems out there. And part of it is, we've got safety issues. There's things that are tall out there that somebody can hide behind, jump out. And I've talked to the girls and they said, yeah, that concerns me. There's a few little structural things like the baseball bleachers up there. They're cracking and dirt's blowing out from underneath there pretty good. And eventually it's going to crack and it's going to be destroyed. We can solve it and fix all this stuff. But I would like to, offer my talent, expertise in working with this. I don't want to do it full time, but the lawn care people, they mow pretty good, but they don't take any care of the flower beds or anything like that. And especially around the cosmetology building, those plants look terrible. And that's a reflection on the college itself. So when somebody comes to take a look at the college, they walk around and they see shabby, overgrown. It's got to make a difference. I think it wouldn't take much to make this right. But we've got a nice school here. We can make it better. We can make it safer for all people. We can make it more attractive and thereby possibly getting more students to come here rather than, they come here and look here or go to Dodge and look at Dodge or down to liberal, and they say, well, the Dodge campus is a whole lot more attractive. You know, I can walk with any of you through this campus and I can show you stuff. And this is just a partial list of things that I've seen. And I've been doing lawn care for 15 years and I'm semi-retired. I'd like to take a shot at cleaning up the place, making it more attractive and making it safer. You know, I could talk for 3 hours about any part of this, but that's the short and the skinny of it. And I appreciate your all's time. And I think it's your job to make this community college better. And that's why I came here. Because I've talked with Dr. Root and I've talked with Derek and gotten nothing. And I think something needs to be done. What little they have done off this list was done poorly, to say the very least. But I thank you for your time, folks. If you've got any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. My phone number is on the stuff I've given you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Sinclair. All right, Ms. Tony Douglas.
Hello again. It's been a while. I just have one question I would like to ask. I'm not expecting a response. Been attending the board meetings for over 3 years. I've missed 2 in that entire time. I know there's a lot of executive sessions and those things, and that there's pending litigation. I would like to know why 2 of the trustees who are involved in that pending litigation have never once recused themselves, since they're named respondents in that litigation. I find it to be a big conflict of interest, and I think the general public would also. Just wanted to put that out there and raise that question. Thank you for your time.
Okay, in regards to Ms. Stevens' issues that she has brought up, we were apprised before the meeting of this situation. I just wanted to let you know that I reported those issues to Dr. Ryan Ruda, and he has initiated the appropriate investigation into that. I don't know if you have anything else you'd like to speak to. But one other thing, I think there's 2 separate issues here. One is the issue with the basketball team, but the other issue is the president's decision to not issue the waiver to Ms. Stevens. And so I'm going to allow Dr. Ruda to go ahead and explain both of those situations as much as he can in public comment.
Well, thank you. I would concur as far as appreciate the courage that it takes to come forward and address the board in open session. You know, Title IX is not anything that we take lightly. As we are brought and made aware of concerns, that does initiate an internal process on campus, which has been initiated there today. So as we have had these concerns brought forward to us, that prompts us to be able to move into action and start an internal process there for investigation, which has just to address and be able to counter with steps that are being taken here at the college to show that our diligence. In regards to the transfer waiver, you know, there's discussions, conversations in regards to this. There, what I lean to are the national bylaws that guide NJCAA, community colleges, and within the bylaws, it does state that the transfers from an NJCAA member college If student athletes are signed to a letter of intent at any time in the previous current or upcoming academic year, a fully executed transfer waiver is required, as well as an NJCAA letter of intent release. So per the guidelines that we follow as members of the NJCAA, our decision for release was granted. We have signed the release that allows for transfer for the student athlete, Jill in this case, to be able to transfer. However, the transfer waiver is not granted per the guidance that we have with the NJCAA. So we yield to the guidance we have there from the NJCAA.
All right, moving on to item B, President's report.
Several items to report here just from this past month. First of all, I want to bring attention to the John Deere Ag Tech program. They were recognized recently as being College of Tomorrow Platinum Level Award winner. This is a extremely prestigious award. It's the highest award that can be earned for John Deere Ag Tech programs. This program annually is evaluated and graded on many factors, including internship, communication, connection to business, ability to effectively teach technicians, as well as placement into the workforce. This is the first time that our program here at Garden City has won the platinum level, which is the highest. And just want to give accolades and kudos to Gabe and Nate in that program for that work. Starting this fall, our sporting events will be allowed to be at full capacity. We do recommend, strongly recommend fans wear masks. Face coverings will not be required. We did just complete our first football game against Fort Scott this past week, whereas the team won 76-24 and has moved up to number 2 in the rankings. Our men's and women's cross country teams have both moved into the national rankings as well, with the women currently at 6th and the men at 9th. We've had 2 student athletes on our cross country team, Dennis Mutai and Shireen Shuriat, who were named the Jayhawk Conference Men and Women Runners of the Week, and Dennis was also named the National Runner. So congratulations. Also, just as a point of information, I did want to provide some context to the board on steps that we are taking for moving forward with the legal services request for proposal. Just wanted to outline the steps that we'll be taking, as we've been notified that our attorney, Randy Grizel, will be retiring at the end of this year. So we have administratively developed a request qualifications proposal. This draft, which has been sent to the board for review and revisions, we plan to send to local law firms, attorneys, as well as posting into the Telegram and other outlets at the end of, toward the end of September. Following this, our plan is to be able to have all interested attorneys, firms attending a mandatory pre-proposal meeting in early October. Purpose of this meeting will be to answer questions on the request for qualifications, clarifying the scope and extent of services, and then being able to help assist in the transparency as it leads into the submission of the proposals. Following that mandatory meeting, then we will collect and send out all the questions and answers that come from that meeting to all the attendants, just so that they have that as a reference point ahead of the proposal deadline. Our plan is to be able to have the proposal deadline by the end of October, whereupon we will receive the proposals, review, and narrow down the qualifications and experience of those attorneys and firms to be able to bring top quality candidates From that interview, our intent and purpose is to be able to bring a recommendation to the board at the November board meeting, which would allow for the board to have time to review the recommendation and also allow for a time of transition and correspondence with Mr. Dell ahead of the end of the year. So again, we'll be posting through this proposal, we'll be posting for qualifications, as well as experience in municipal law, experience in working with public and or educational agencies, requests for hourly rates for the listed scope of services, and the decision and determination for legal services will be based on experience, qualifications, not solely on cost. So as we go forward through this, this is a process that we feel like we've outlined and have been able to give some credence to not only collecting input from those that are interested, but also setting the stage there to answer questions and have a transparent process and being able to address things collectively for the proposed process and the recommendation that we bring back for the board. Happy to answer any questions.
If I understand you correctly, you've identified law firms to send the RFQ to. You had a lot in there. I'm not sure I follow.
Yeah. So our intent is to be able to send, at least locally, send to those law firms that we have listed. We're going to use a variety of different avenues, such as the chamber, different areas where we'll try to be able to do as broad of a cast, sending the qualifications out as we can.
And the qualifications that you're sending out, you all, I thought I heard say something about a board. Put together the qualifications. Am I following?
Yeah, so what we have taken are the scopes of services as far as what we have utilized legal services for in our past. So we've taken that list of scope of services and condensed it into what it is we are sending out within the qualifications, but also asking for resumes and experience in working with municipalities, educational entities.
So it's we.
Cabinet, so it would be primarily Carla and I. I mean, that's who we've drafted. We've drafted the RFP.
And then we're going to have time that we'll wait on those folks to express some interest. The qualifications that you have set out. When that's done, we will bring those to us.
That's correct. Well, we'll be bringing forward the recommendations of what is came forward within the proposal.
Yeah. So we'll be bringing a recommendation as well as the other, all of those who have made the application.
Okay, you would have access to the applications. We would be bringing forward the recommendation in November.
Okay. So you're going to review the application and you're going to make a recommendation. And you're going to
Correct. Yeah, ultimately it's the board's decision on who is retained. We will collect the information. You'll have access to that information, but we'll be bringing forward the recommendation.
So I understand.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely.
Question. So I just wanted to point out again that this contract is a little bit different than our other requests for proposals. In that there's going to be a weight on the qualifications and past experience are part of the weight of the decision. It's not going to be based solely on cost. That was outlined in the proposal that Dr. Newman said.
It would have been a couple of weeks ago by email. I can get a copy for you. Yeah.
I haven't seen it.
Okay.
I would like to.
And if you have any other questions about it, please direct them to Dr. More to report?
No, that is all the report.
Thank you. Incidental information within our board packet. Any comments or questions? All right, report from City County Economic Development.
RMJ Planning is conducting a statewide housing study, and Economic Development has also obtained their services to do one exclusive to Finney County, which they've worked with RMJ the past few years. They're doing this county survey to see if they can get Finney County and hope to qualify for RHID funding for projects. Currently, they're not. Don't meet the requirements. RMJ did help hold a listening meeting on September 1st with members from Economic Development, realtors, and one businessman. And from the realtors, as of September 1st, there were only 26 houses on the market. I know there's quite a few projects where they're trying to get through. That's it.
All right, report from KACCT.
Let me know if you need anything, any further information that I mentioned just briefly. I can get copies of all these reports. I did make 2 copies of things that we did talk about at the last KACCT meeting. One of them is the meeting recap. That's pretty little. I can almost read it. I try to make it bigger. Then the second one is the KACCT Kansas Community College concerns about the federally proposed free community college plan. I do have some extra copies of those. If anybody else would like to have them, I'd be glad to give them to you. I'll leave them up here. The meeting was August 27th and 28th in Hutchinson Community College. It was a big agenda. And I think that's why the executive director sent me a list to make sure that I made available to you all what was discussed, as opposed to what I thought I remembered. First of all, we discussed legal updates, emerging issues in higher education, which we talked about Title IX and the legal harassment. One of the things that was mentioned, and I guess I had never thought about this, is that illegal speech is not protected. The second thing, I'm sure you've all heard about the NIL regarding athletes and their opportunities to make money on their name, image, and likeness. NIL is what it is. One of the things they did point out to us that it may not be equal for female athletes as compared to what the male athletes may bring in. We discussed things about disabilities, social media challenges. We discussed also the Governor's Education Council, and that covers students' birth through adulthood in the mains of education, opportunity, and equality. Also, discussion about the Advantage Kansas Coordinating Coalition. This is industry-led. By the way, Dr. Rudy, if I make mistakes, he was probably more awake than I was sometimes, okay? Feel free to correct me. I'm sure you've read about it in the newspaper. The Kansas Department of Education has been or did complete this Kansas Can Tour. Commissioner Randy Watson was available in many communities to discuss this. The second day, we had the Kansas Legislative Outlook, and some of the by Jacob Probst, who is a Kansas House representative from that particular area. Some of the things he mentioned are challenges: redistricting, tax revenues, elections, critical race theory, and vaccines. One of the things he mentioned, and I've got a whole packet of stuff that they, the designs and everything that are approved to use with the Promise Scholarship. They worked on this for 2 years and it was passed. There is a trailer bill that will fix some of the things that need to be addressed in this. One of the things, and this is on number 6 on your list of things we did, and I wanted to point this out. President of KACCT, Nancy Ingram, president of Fort Scott Community College, and President Andy Brown of Johnson County Community College presented Heather Morgan, the KACCT executive director, with the signed copy of the Promise Act and the pen with which it was signed to honor her contributions toward the legislation and implementation. Heather also shared all the Promise Act marketing places. I cannot tell you how valuable, or invaluable, how you want to say it, that Heather Morgan is for the community college organizations. She attends all the meetings, provides the information, goes to the Board of Regents. There are a number of times that she has definitely clarified information to the Board of Regents about community colleges that they don't understand at all until she talks to them. She is very valuable to us. So there was other things. There was a company called EAB, Recruitment, Enrollment, Changes, needed to reverse negative trends. I believe Dr. Rita told me that we used them in the past, but what we have now to give information to our prospective students, parents, and so forth is, and I watched it and I know what we have available, that we are so advanced from this perspective. And a lot of that I think has to do with the important enrollment procedures and so forth that our admissions staff has implemented. If you will go out on to the websites and see the questionnaires that students can ask, their input, parents as well. So we listen to them, but we are beyond them. The legislative priorities and positions on Senate Bill number 40, there's nothing in place. The critical race theory, teaching history that shame anyone, transfer of credits, concurrent enrollment, remedial educations. The second list I gave out to you, and I know we've heard about this, free community colleges. It at this point, the way it reads, it won't affect us at this point because we are not governed by the state. We are locally governed. And so there are a number of things I think would hurt our students. And I'd be glad to anybody to have this. I think if students came here thinking it was going to be free community colleges, not true. There's so many things that they would still have to pay for. So I guess the answer to us would be to increase the Pell Grant. Pell Grant can be provided for anything the students need academically, personally, to pay their bills, whatever. So the recommendation that we came away with was double the Pell, forget free community college. Next meeting is in Pratt Community College at December 3rd and 4th. Thank you. Sorry it took so long. It was a long meeting.
So I just have a question on the free community college plan. Was this was a federally enacted?
It is not enacted.
It's not enacted yet. It's an idea.
Proposed.
It's a proposed.
Yeah.
And what's the steps that has to go through?
Currently, it is proposed legislation.
Okay.
The way that this particular plan laid out there is that there would be split funding from the federal level, but in order for state to qualify, the state would have at least a 25% commitment. So it's going to vary by state whether or not there is going to be that financial commitment on this end. The other side of it there is that it starts to really decay or move away from local governance and become much more governed at the state level.
Right.
And maybe I did a kind of a poor job on that one. Free, the way I read it and the way this mentions is it's free tuition.
Correct.
And there are a number of areas besides tuition, students would still be responsible for the cost of fees, books, and supplies, housing, everything else. The only thing that would be free would be the tuition. The group that would be left out of this are our high school special students. They could not take advantage of this. The other thing is that the proposal requires a state match for the tuition. And it has to come from somewhere. So just keep your ears open. And if you hear anything, and feel free to take one of these copies, the concerns from the community college in Kansas standpoint. Okay? Sorry I didn't make that clear. I'm a beginner.
Thank you, Beth. I really appreciate it. It's a lot of information to regurgitate. Report from Faculty Senate. Yes. Yeah, I heard that. Please go ahead and state your position.
I can't hear you.
Wants a vote on whether she should or should not grant. Or should not.
I would like the board to call a vote on whether or not I deserve the waiver outside of what President Ruda has determined.
Okay, so I don't think a community member can bring up a point of order, but if a board member wanted to do that.
When would you be able to make a decision?
So what I would recommend is that we table this issue until we can review all the information.
Will I have to wait for the next board meeting? Do you want time to review it now?
No. Yep. So I think it's something that we need to discuss.
I understand
Yeah.
that. I don't disagree with that. But
Yeah.
I don't think that's up to us to make that decision. We trust that president.
The decision for her waiver, is that what you're referring to? Yeah, I agree. I agree. All right. Mr. Winger, we appreciate you waiting. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. Good evening, everyone. So Faculty Senate met last Friday. We have been asked as a Faculty Senate to start periodically reviewing policies, making sure that we're going through them, updating current language, making sure that we are up to date on everything that we need to be, and make sure that it is set forth best for the employee, for the students, and for Garden City Community College in total. So we've actually started with the academic ethics policy. What that refers to is it just concerns the cheating. And if the students are cheating, what are our policies that are involved with that? So we've started that process of reviewing our language in there, making sure that it is clear. And we are currently working on that. Some of the paragraphs didn't make very much sense. So we're going through as a committee, and we're going to start working with Mr. Malone and CNI to make sure that it's up to date and all correct. We are also working with College Council on the internal governance manual. And in that, we're going to be updating our bylaws to make sure that those are up to date and to make sure that the language in there is clear and concise, and it matches what other committees are across Garden City Community College. And the last thing is we were able to nominate several employees to different committees. We are this year trying to load, so to say, and make sure that all the faculty members are serving the best way that they can across several different committees, and that they're all working together to help the college best as they can. Thank you very much.
Any questions? Thank you. All right, accreditation update.
Appreciate the given opportunity just to regarding accreditation visit. You can advance the slide. And the next slide. Next. So again, we've been reviewing, and I think this is our last one, maybe 5C if I have to check my notes, but we've been reviewing the most frequently cited core components that have come up across all HLC accreditation reviews, assurance argument reviews, based on information from 2018. And tonight we're looking at 5A. And the goal is just to provide a brief kind of update into the college's efforts. Next slide. So Criterion. We're missing some numbers here. Could you X out of the slideshow? Could you, I'm not able to see the title of the slide. Or the, I guess resume the show. I guess we will make it work. So I apologize. It looks like there's been a technical error on the slides. The paper copies in front of the board show 6 different subcomponents underneath Criterion 5. So we have a lot to review. We'll get going. Criterion 5, again, is all about the institution's resources, structures, processes, and planning are sufficient to fulfill its mission, improve the quality of its educational offerings, and respond to future challenges. So we'll go through, we're on 5A. Yeah, I think you may have the wrong slide, the wrong. Yeah, yeah, we should be on 5C. Yeah. If you pull up the email that I sent. That one looks right. I don't think you've started screen sharing yet. While we get the screen share sorted, I'll go ahead and continue just for the sake of time. Criterion 5 or 5C, subcomponent 5C, is that the institution engages in systematic and integrated planning and improvement. Next slide. 5C1 states that the institution allocates its resources in alignment with its mission and priorities, including, as applicable, its comprehensive research enterprises, associated institutions, and affiliated centers. We don't have quite as much of that as the last bits there as a community college. But again, the goal here is to provide you a sense of the evidence that we're looking at to prove that we are fulfilling the stated guidelines for the Higher Learning Commission. So one of the things we'll talk about a little bit tonight and then more next month is the continued evolution of our strategic plan here at the college. So we would use the strategic planning pillars of progress to show that we are that plan really drives the funding priorities of the institution. That states the priorities of the institution and that our funding aligns with those priorities. Our annual report and our audit show, as one example, a breakdown of overall expenses at the institution, 37% of which, the highest category amount, go toward academics and academic support, appropriate for an institution of learning, followed by student support and institutional support. We can do the next slide. This slide goes through one of the new elements of the strategic plan, which we'll review a little bit more, I believe, next month. But Criterion 5C2 asks that the institution links its processes for assessment of student learning, evaluations of operations, planning, and budgeting. And really what they're asking for is that we learn from and use continuous improvement practices to inform how the institution operates and runs in the future. Are we learning from the things we say and learn it, or are we learning from the things that we study, and are we changing how we operate the institution? So we have this fun flow chart in our strategic planning handbook now that kind of titled the operational life cycle, where we use continuous improvement practices like program review, assessment of student learning, to learn about how we are performing and use that learning to shape institutional initiatives that can be recorded in the strategic plan. Some of those strategic plan initiatives require funding. They go through a budget request process and the annual planning process. Some of them don't. There's also room there on that graph for external influences. And we'll be using this as evidence that all of our processes are linked. So the 5-year department reviews that are presented to you, the Board of Trustees, the information that is learned in those can be used to request to support budget planning processes. So we can actually trace multiple instances of continuous improvement practices leading to initiatives leading to budget requests that have been funded at the institution. And that's really wonderful in terms of HLC. We can move on to the next slide. 5C3 asks that we use our planning process that it encompasses the institution as a whole and considers both internal and external constituent groups. So again, we'll point to the continued evolution of our strategic plan on the multiple versions over the last cycle. And the new strategic planning process that we've kind of updated asks that institution-wide departments can propose their own initiatives. So it's not a top-down driven plan. Institution-wide, different departments can participate in that hitting that internal constituent groups. And then also that life cycle shows clear link between continuous improvement practices, strategic plan initiatives, and the budgeting processes. And those continuous improvement practices do consider external constituent groups as a part of that feedback. Of its capacity, fluctuations in the institution's source of revenue, and enrollment. So we have multiple things here. One is the board mandated carryover of reserves, showing that we are maintaining a financial stability at the institution. The next two, awareness of trends in enrollment and state funding. Those are a part of all conversations related to budgeting, and they're actually presented to the committee that recommends initiatives for funding to cabinet. So that's presented to that group at the beginning of their deliberation process. We also participate in activities like tracking the number of area high school graduates 4 years out. What is the size of the Garden City High School senior class 4 years from now? There's an office on campus that has that number. So we definitely keep track of those things. And the planning process that each department goes through at the very beginning of the budget planning process also asks them to account for goals over multiple years into the future. So we do also participate in long-term planning. We can move on to 5C5. The planning activities anticipates evolving external factors such as technology advancements, demographic shifts, globalization, COVID. So that strategic planning graph also has room for external influences, things that we as an institution can't control, but that we must adapt to. So we have several long-term planning documents. One is a facilities master plan. Our IT department has a rotation of technology replacement. We keep, as an institution, budgeted dollars available for new program development. And we also have recruitment and retention committees that generate initiatives. We can move on to 5C6. And the final slide here is that we implement our plans systematically to improve our operations and student outcomes. And we will, as part of our argument here, we will use evidence from our budget and strategic planning process of things that are funded. And this list here are actually items that came through that budget planning process that the committee recommended to cabinet be funded fully. And my understanding is that they have been funded fully in this most recent budget cycle. So things like improved seating for residence hall student desks, increased professional development dollars from multiple departments across campus, purchasing additional institutional instruments for music programs, campus mail golf cart. Those break down over time. They depreciate is what I understand. And also another example, purchasing additional campus wheelchairs. These are all things that have flowed through that process. So really highlighting the process and evidence of that process being successful. I'm happy to answer questions or comments or concerns after that rapid fire presentation.
I think the purpose of this discussion is for all of us to understand, if we get posed the question, how do we know that the budget is meeting the needs of our students? And the answer is that through the process of departments making their requests and their plans and passing it up to the their supervisors and then to the institutional leaders and the cabinet. And then we get the recommendation from Dr. Ruda and Carla as to where monies are allocated to support our students. Am I hitting the right notes here? Okay.
Absolutely. The only thing I would add is that it's also linked to our the process actually starts much further back with the continuous improvement practices. So one of the things we hear often is that program review, non-academic department assessment, assessment of student learning, that data doesn't go anywhere or do anything. And what we're really asking for as an institution is that that data be used to inform how that department moves forward in the future. So assessment of student learning may help them understand what's working and what's not. From that, they may develop an initiative to solve what's not working. That initiative might require funding that goes through that budget planning process. And if it's approved, it gets operationalized and part of their next assessment work. So, but you're absolutely on target.
Lots of questions.
Mark, I want you to know that I'm comfortable with what you're doing. So if we have to,
I do appreciate the compliment, and I've heard it before, and it is appreciated. But the institution has a solid foundation in the work that was done before, and I have a really kind of supervising some of the efforts that take place across the institution. I have a really firm footing to grab a hold of. But thank you.
Next item on our agenda is ownership linkage.
I have something I'd like to bring up. If you all are aware, Vaughn Hunt sent us an email about $500. And I really have no problem in that. I didn't find anything problem, but Marilyn, I think you were out of bounds by answering to the board before it came before the board. We had a right to review it and say ourselves what went into that. I think you got to step your bounds on that. I don't appreciate it. I went out myself and visited with Vaughn because he's a friend of mine. So I had a better understanding of what he was talking about. But, I don't think that should happen again without it going before the whole board.
Leonard, I would just reply back that that answer came all from Dr. Ruda. And I
understand where it came from, but it didn't come from the board. We had no input in that answer.
I shared it with you and you had opportunity to add to it.
Okay.
Please go ahead. Is there any other something?
Yeah, I have something here. Someone slipped me a note. It says, please call an executive session at the allotted executive session on the agenda to discuss and review the provided documents that pertain to Jill Stevens' future. We cannot do that at this point in time. We don't have an opportunity to call an executive session, clear this room, and give sufficient. Do we need to call security? I don't want to hear it from that. I'm stating here that we don't have the ability and the time to do this. And according to our policy governance, we can have an opinion, but it still goes back, and the president has been given the authority beyond that. And there's no way that we can sit here, the four of us, call an executive session and clear the room for however long to go through this. It wouldn't do justice for us to do that in that short period of time. So whoever gave me this note, I appreciate it. We can't do it.
And I would concur with Mr. Hitz. It is a state law that you cannot add items to an agenda without a public notice, a 3-day public notice. So yes, it was in public comments, but it can't be an action item that a board takes action on. However, it can be brought up at the next board meeting, and I would be glad to do that.
I would agree.
Ms. Stevens, go ahead. Yeah, and we placed you in the proper place of public comments. I know it's frustrating, and I can see the angst in your eyes. And I appreciate that you are passionate about basketball and want to play, and that you took the courage to speak up, but we need to follow our rules as well. So it will be an item on the next meeting agenda. Ma'am, her comment was placed in public comment.
Which is where it should be placed.
Correct. Right. Any other ownership linkage?
No.
I have one that's kind of fun to report. One of our alums, our graduating alums, was promoted to president of the Kansas City Royals. Dayton Moore played baseball for Garden City Community College, and I have followed him very closely as he transferred to his school after he left Garden City Community College. And my grandson sent me this, and it came in the Kansas City paper, and that's a great thing for one of our alums.
Thank you.
Here's the release. I'll throw it over there on the table if anybody wants to see it.
All right, in our agenda, we have the list of upcoming events, so please take a look at it. Of note, September 23rd, you have yep, you got it, okay. We were referring to September 23rd. Dave is going to be attending the advisory committee for DPS. And Jody has agreed to remind us of each of those meetings as they come up. So we'll keep abreast of those.
No, we'd originally scheduled that since the seating is not completed, and we'll be this month, I assume.
Yeah, we'll running into delays in early order, but there's got a party here next 2 weeks.
All right, folks, I was trustee, I remind you to fill out your board self-assessment of the meeting. Like me. Any other items? This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Good night, guys. Sorry I couldn't be there in person.
I don't know if you can make entertain, but you can always use that if you read it.
But not.